been since March that the Father has planted something deep in my spirit. There's times when God kind of speaks to me when I'm passing or in motion, and they're important. I need to pay attention to those, but there's times that God sits me in timeout. Has God ever sat you in timeout? Okay, I'm alone. I'm okay with that. God sits me in timeout and he says, Arden, you need to get this, and you need to continue to get this, and you need to soak in this, and you need to listen to this. And he sat me in Isaiah chapter 44, and I've just been there for months and just soaking in what he said. We read those verses in the beginning of the service. And he began to reveal to me what I believe he wanted me to share with his church, whether you're here in the house or watching online. I believe God wanted me to bring this word so that we truly understand the influence that we have in our lives. Many of us here this morning are biological parents and grandparents. But if you're not, this word is still for you today because you have a sphere of influence around people in your life. Every one of us has people that looks up to us, comes to us for counsel, questions. We have authority. We have influence over them. And I believe this word is God stirring us and helping us to understand, recognize, and then apply the fact that we have authority. And I believe one of the first steps in understanding that is knowing what we face. This week and next week, we're going to stay focused in Isaiah 44. This week, we're going to look very specifically at an awareness, an opportunity for us to maybe learn for the first time or maybe be reminded for some of us what's in front of us, the effect that we can have on people. And then next week, we're going to talk about practical ways for us to bless our children. So Janie and Tammy, if you would please come. Many of you know, and if you don't, Janie Haines is our freedom pastor here at Grace. She lives, breathes, drinks, speaks. I think she even sleeps freedom. She carries the heart of Jesus, and she wants to see all of his kids set free. Tammy is the director of the By Grace Women's Home that we have here in Middleburg, and on a regular basis, she sees the pain and the hurt from brokenness. But Tammy has championed the cause, and we talked about it earlier this morning, of today is day one. What's behind us is behind us, and now we move forward. I respect that about you, Tammy. Thank you so much for leading with that vision. This morning, I prepared some questions. They may be concerned I won't follow them. Of course, I always follow the script. But we want to talk about some of the emotional pain that we can cause as parents over the people that we have influence. And we also want to talk about some of the very real traps, challenges that our children face right here in our community. If you're a parent this morning and you've chose to have your young children in the service, I give you my word, we will keep it safe, but I will also give you my word that we're going to talk about real things, real challenges, real drugs, real concerns that are right in front of our young people. And if you ask this morning, why in the world are you going to do that? Friends, our children already know. Unfortunately, what I find many times is it's the parents and the grandparents that don't know. So we're going to talk about those real things this morning. Are we ready to go? All right. Thank you both for taking a risk and joining me on stage this morning. Janie, I want to start with you this morning. I know that you meet with a lot of people, and I know that you have seen and spoke to people about broken relationships. And the first question I have, can you describe for us some of the pain that you have seen in people that have really been hurt by a broken relationship with their parents?
Sure. First, I want to say your title is perfect. What is pouring out of us? Right? So if we are carrying pain that hasn't been healed, that will pour out of it. Some of the most common ways that I see are things like anxiety, depression, drugs, alcohol, eating disorders, all kinds of other kinds of addictions, pornography, sex, overspending, gambling. I mean, the list can go on. And then there's always the issue of suicide. Pain has a voice, and if it is not healed, it will express itself.
And Janie, to be clear, because I want this to settle deep in our spirits, you're seeing these things simply from, or as a result, or in response to broken relationships. So as a parent, if I have children and I have a broken relationship with them, these are some of the things that can happen?
Yes, all of us. It starts very early in life. We're going to try to deal with the pain the best we can. We act out. We go down wrong paths because of the pain, and we're trying to deal with it. And we do it the best we can, and it's not healthy.
Well, Janie, I'll be honest with you. I heard that you can just get over it, right? So the older you get, you just get over it. Is that true?
No, I wish that were true. A lot of times we try to convince ourselves that's true, but it is not. If the pain is in there, it will come out. And we need to go to the root issues of what's caused the pain, uncover that, uncover the lies that we believe. We start to believe lies about ourselves, about other people, our world around us. We believe lies about God that comes out of the wounding that happens especially growing up. We just don't avoid it. We live in a sin-filled world. We carry issues of unforgiveness, and that is poison to our soul, like none other.
Tammy, the first question I have for you this morning, and listen, Tammy's on the front lines every day. She's on the streets of Middleburg. Right? The streets, the back alleys. No, but Tammy, wait, that didn't sound good, did it, Tammy?
No, that didn't sound good.
Can we strike that? I think we're online, we can't strike that. But the point is, Tammy is facing the real things that are happening in our community. And Tammy, I want to ask you a question this morning. Have you heard of the term convenience store heroin?
I have. And not just convenience store heroin. Also gas station weed. And I really didn't say a lot about that in the first service, but the convenience store heroin and the gas station weed are horrible.
This doesn't come from a local drug dealer?
No. This is something that you will find at a local convenience store, sometimes even the dollar stores. The name is Neptune. Sometimes it can be called Zaza, red, or silver. And it's in a little bottle, just like the 8-hour energy shots that you see when you go to the checkout line at a convenience store. It's just a little bottle. It costs about $30 to $45, and anybody can walk in the store and buy it because it's considered a dietary supplement. But what's in that is tineptine. And I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly or not, but tineptine stimulates the same receptors in our brain that heroin does. And it does not matter how old you are, you can walk into a convenience store and you can buy this. It's about $30, sometimes it's $45.
So as we pick our jaws up off the floor, and for some of us that didn't realize that our 11-year-old son or daughter can go to the local 7-Eleven, if you will, and I'm not picking on 7-Eleven, I'm just using that as an illustration, and can get this. Tammy, I would like for you for a minute to talk to us about the pain and the shock that you've seen on parents' faces when they realize that their children have turned to this and they didn't even know it was available. What's that pain like?
Well, that pain is horrible. They begin to blame themselves. They're confused. They're not sure, like, why. And it's just not even getting the convenience store heroin or the gas station weed. It could be as simple as things in your medicine cabinet. And when parents realize that their kids are dabbing in drugs and alcohol, they get this overwhelming fear and confusion, and they start to have doubt and feel like they're failures. And it's all lies that the enemy wants to do to distract them.
That's true. It's absolutely true. Tammy, what do you believe parents can do to have a better awareness and be involved in their children's lives? You know, even if they don't sense they're going down a bad path, but especially if they do, knowing now that this stuff's out in front of us, what can we do?
I think it's important to set clear boundaries and expectations. And when you suspect something isn't quite right with your child, whether it's just they're having a bad day or a mood, don't avoid it. Ask questions. And as I shared earlier today, if your child gives no response, that is a response. Act on that.
That's true. Tammy, does lecturing work? Because I've never lectured my kids. Dramatic pause. So, my son's here this morning. I heard his voice. But guilty as charged sometimes. But to sitting down, throwing the book at them, is that the way to get close?
No. Speaking at them, lecturing them, they're just going to shut down. You want to be able to have an open line of communication with them. Allow them to know that no matter what they're going to share with you, that you're going to love them through it and walk with them, not in judgment, and have clear boundaries. I know I shared in the first service is, like when you're having a good moment with your child, that's a good time to sit down and say, let's come up with a chart. If this is a choice you make, or this is a rule you violate, this is what the consequence is. Because then they already know. When they're going to make a bad choice or choose to violate one of the rules, they already know what the consequence is. And I think that is probably very helpful for somebody that is struggling with drugs and alcohol.
That's good. Janie, I have a similar question. Again, Janie, you're meeting with the children that are hurt, but you're also meeting with the parents that are hurt. They're wondering where they went wrong. What advice do you have? What have you seen that you can talk to parents about? What do you do if you sense your child starting to take a U-turn or veer into the ditch and go down the wrong path?
I guess when I think about that, I want to comment on the choice and consequence. I wish I would have known that when I raised my own kid. That teach them that every choice they make has a consequence. They get to choose the choice and the consequence. My job was to carry out their consequence. I loved that. Yeah. So anyhow, what advice would I give parents? A lot of parents don't know how to help their kid, and so what Tammy's saying is so helpful. But if you really feel inadequate, get some help. Get some help from a Christian counselor or the Freedom Ministry or the youth pastor to help you as a parent learn how to love your kids. And that's the other thing that I hear over and over again. I work mostly with adults, and I hear so many say, I know my parents loved me. They provided for me, but I never heard the words, I love you. So please speak those words over your kids all the time, and make an impression that you don't approve of maybe of their behavior, but how much you love them. So just be present with them and get some help for yourself. If you really feel like you're floundering and you don't know what to do or how to do it, if you've got open wounds and healing that needs to take place in your life, please reach out to us. If you're free and if you're healthy, your kids have a whole lot better chance of being free and healthy themselves.
I love that. If we're willing to go to the hard places, if we're willing to face the hard things in life and seek Jesus for our freedom, our kids have such a greater chance of being able to walk in freedom. That is so good. That's absolutely so good. Janie, while we're talking, you have the microphone. Janie she champions this. I've seen this myself. There are times when Janie, and we're not all Janie's biological children, but how many people count Janie as an influence in her life, right? She's met with you or friends from the Freedom Team, and there's times where she stops, she pauses, and she gives a mother's blessing. Janie, can you talk briefly about that transformation? What does it mean when we stop in the middle when somebody's hurting and choose to bless them?
I am a firm believer that love heals. God is love, and that's who he is, and love heals people. So when I have the privilege to give a mother's blessing over someone, I watched their heart melt. I watched something be healed in them. And we all have a need. We created with a need to be loved and accepted, especially by our parents. And when that need is not met, there's a deep longing. We crave it. And to be able to bless, and these are mostly adult women that I have the honor to do this with, and watch something heal inside of them is, I can't even express what it's like to watch that.
Yeah, I said it earlier in the beginning of the service. We're praying over a young lady that's in Tammy's life right now, and Tammy said, I just looked at her and I said, it's day one. It's today forward. And I think about this mother's blessing, and I think about a father's blessing. Men, this applies to us as well. If we are willing, and I know sometimes we have to set boundaries. I'm not asking you to take down unsafe boundaries. Please don't hear that. But if we are willing, friends, to look at today and begin to bless our children, whether our biological children, the people we have influence over in our life, if we're ready to say today is day one, and no matter where you've been or what you've done, I choose to bless you. Wow.
And if you need a prayer to help you with that, I can provide that for you.
That's so good. Tammy, as we process this, I'm a practical thinker, sometimes too much. Like, I want to put the pieces together. I want to know how it plays out. And what comes to my mind is, okay, great. I know there's a problem. Great. Talk to my kids, set up the chart. I love the chart. I'm involved. But what's the balance? Like, how do I stay involved in my kids' day-to-day life, but yet not invade their privacy? What does that balance look like when we know we're in the middle of this?
Well, the first thing that I would like to say about that is, let's love the child, let's love the teen, let's love the person that's struggling. Let's hate the disease or whatever the struggle is, because that is not of God. Anxiety, depression, that's never what God's plan was. Suicide, being addicted to drugs or alcohol. We can hate that because that really has no place in our life.
It's good.
And the other thing that I wanted to say is, and I wanted to say this before, and I forgot as well, is we're not asking you to take down the boundaries that you set in your home, but having an open and an honest relationship with your kids is so important. So if they're going to go hang out with their friends, I think your kids need to hear that if there's something happening at your friends or at a birthday party that you're going to that you're not comfortable with, you can call me and I'll come pick you up anytime. I don't care what time it is. I think that's important.
So good.
I also think that it's very important to spend time with your kids and participate in maybe some of the music they're listening to, because listen, the music that they're listening to today
Tammy,
is not
I can't do those TikTok songs. I tried it one time. It didn't go well. I pulled my back out.
Because the lyrics of the songs, they have messages.
That's so true.
And by sitting in and listening to that with your child and just saying, explain to me what that means. Like, what message do you think that artist is trying to give?
That's so good.
To the teens that are listening to this.
It's a way to relate to them.
It's a way to relate to them.
That's
and
good.
It's a way for you to say how you feel about it. They have a choice to feel however they want, but it's a way for you to express how you feel.
That's good. That's good.
Another thing is social media just has a way of grabbing a hold of our kids. And if you choose to allow your kids to have social media, one of the rules that I've always had is I had to be a friend on your social media so that I could watch what you're
You
posting.
want to watch my stuff?
And tagging, and every once in a while, just let them know that, you're going to pick up their phone with them present, and you're going to look through their phone. It's just a way of knowing what they're doing and who they're talking to and where their interest is.
That's good. Tammy, another question I have for you. Sometimes people think we can exaggerate, like, oh, you're just trying to scare us. They can really go to the dollar store or whatever may go through our minds. Am I exaggerating that this morning, or is this a real problem right here in Central PA?
It is a real problem. It's everywhere. It's just not here in Central Pennsylvania. It's everywhere. And to be honest, sometimes some of the issues are in our medicine cabinet. I'm so guilty of this. If I go to the doctor and he gives me a prescription pain med and I don't use them all, I tend to keep them.
Yeah.
But if it's in your medicine cabinet, Dramamine, like the list goes on, and I know that I gave Arden a list, you would be amazed of what is in your medicine cabinet or in your home that your kids are probably using and you don't even know it.
And on that point, parents, I'm going to have that paper for us next week, and if you would like that, I want to give it to you. Again, please don't think we're trying to educate your kids what to do wrong. Unfortunately, most of our children already know this stuff. But it's the moms and the dads and the grandparents and the aunts and the uncles that need to be aware. So next Sunday, if you want to see what you can get right off the shelves at the local store, we're going to have a paper. It also talks about some of those prescription meds that we need to be careful about. Janie, we talked about that mother's blessing and a father's blessing, and it just causes me to think about our Heavenly Father. Can you think of, or do you know, is there ever a time that Jesus stops pouring out on us, stops blessing us?
No. Never. Nope. Can't be more blunt than that, can I?
No, it's true.
I don't think he ever stops blessing us, but we can hinder receiving it. I think if we carry unforgiveness, if we carry things like resentment, bitterness, anger, those kinds of issues, that can stand in the way of receiving his blessings.
Does he bless us even when we don't deserve it?
Yeah.
What a picture, moms and dads. Have you ever felt trapped by the enemy? Have you ever been in a spot in your life where you're like, my kid doesn't even deserve? I challenge your heart this morning. Is there ever a time that our children don't deserve our blessing? It doesn't mean we bless their sin. It doesn't mean we bless the junk and the garbage, but them as an individual. We're talking about the person, the heart. I know there's times I've had to apologize to my own children. There's probably times I've missed that I should have. But man, God, through this process since March, God, is there ever a time that my kids don't deserve my blessing? Man, it just rocked my world. Janie, we talked a little bit about that mother's blessing, and we hinted on a spiritual parent. Could you take a moment and could you give us here at Grace, those watching online, what is really the definition of a spiritual parent? Those people that we have influence over that we're not necessarily connected to by blood.
And this is just my definition, so I'm going to put that there. I think the first qualification of a spiritual parent is to have a heart of love and compassion for the other person. It's someone who's willing to invest their time, their energy into a person, to be willing to encourage them and support them, bring correction when it's needed, all done with that heart of love, that you're there to help them grow spiritually, mature as a Christian human being. And it's just living life and walking life with someone. That's
so good. Tammy, do your experience, and not just with your own children, but you have great experience with so many people that have struggled with the hardest things of life. Do they have a sense when it's safe? When it's safe to talk to you? Do they know?
Well, maybe not initially. They might not have the heart to know it's safe. Because if they're already trapped in that lie, obviously they're not thinking very clear. But I just continue to love on them. And you start to watch those walls break down.
That's so good.
So just don't ever give up. Just keep pouring into them, keep loving on them, keep encouraging them. Find the good. And again, don't avoid things that you're concerned about.
Come on. Say it again.
Don't avoid the things that you're concerned about, because you're concerned for a reason. Just watch how you react to it. And if you react with love, it won't fail.
That's so good, Tammy. Friends here at Grace, if you don't know, one of the founding principles is that this is a safe house. And what I mean by that, Jesus said that we're supposed to be a hospital, right? If you're not hurt, you don't show up at Evan's ER, truth? Right? You don't just show there. I mean, there has been times I swung by Geisinger to get their sushi. I'm not going to lie. But I didn't see a doctor. You don't go to the hospital if you're not hurt. This is a safe house. If you're hurting this morning, we want to reach out and we want to love you. How many folks here right now this morning, you say, yeah, I'm an aunt or an uncle? How many aunts and uncles do we have? How many grandparents? How many people, even if you're not biologically related, you have relationship with young people? Even people in their 20s, you just have relationship with them. Look, I don't know about you, but there's sometimes, as a hurting young person, you look to an aunt or uncle. You look to somebody because you want it to be safe for you to spill out what's happening inside. I challenge you this morning. What can you do to be safe for that person to come and sit with you? I'm not saying bless the junk, but I'm saying love the person. You know, Tammy says, maybe not at first, but over time they become to realize it's safe, and it begins to stir inside of me. What am I doing to be safe? And friends, I hope it stirs inside of you. What can you do to show a younger person that your door is open? We carry so much influence. I'm just not always sure we know it. We recognize it. They need us. It is so real. Janie, anything that you would like to say as we close out this part?
The kids that we're talking about this morning, they're doing what they're due to deal with life. And those kids grow up to be us.
Oh, that's so good.
No, so as us, the adults that are in these kids' lives, we need to take care of our own business as well. And
so good.
And I go back to what Arden, the image he saw and the choice that he put out there early on is to choose Jesus. Choose Jesus in your life and help your kids come to a place in their lives that they choose Jesus.
Tammy, the last question I have for you is, what words of encouragement would you have to a hurting young person that feels trapped in this addiction, or even to a parent of a young person that feels trapped in this?
That you're loved and that you don't need to be trapped in the middle of a lie. And that love, patience, understanding, positive affirmations, speaking that over somebody is speaking God's love. If you have negative feelings or judgment or are bitter towards somebody, you're speaking what the enemy wants you to do, and you're just shoving that person further down the hole. So choose God's love. Be patient. Be understanding.
Thank you so much. Can we say thank you to them for sharing with us this morning? Autumn, you and your team can come, and while Autumn and her team comes to lead us in a closing song, Tracy, if you would put up the little doodling that I did yesterday. I want to talk briefly as we close this morning about transformation. And you know by what I chose to title this week, and I'll share with you again next week, you know, what am I pouring out? And then next week I'm going to very specifically talk about the practical ways to bless your children. But as we close this morning, I want to go back to verse 2 of Isaiah 44, where it talks about God forming us. It doesn't just say that he created us, but he formed us. The Lord who made you and helps you says, do not be afraid. That Lord who made you is that part of him modeling and shaping us. And once I am formed, I begin and I carry spiritual authority. And sometimes we don't recognize it, but friends, I want you to know this morning, as we close this out, you carry spiritual authority. You carry influence, and you carry it over your biological family, but you carry it over those that you have influence over and around. I can guarantee you, I can assure you this morning that there are people that are looking up to you, looking towards you. You may not even realize it. And you carry a sphere of influence. And underneath of that spiritual authority, there's an atmosphere. Friends, we live in a culture that likes to blame a lot, but I want to shift that back, and I want us to look at personal responsibility and own it. We shape and have control. It doesn't matter what's happening outside. We shape and have control over our atmosphere. Teresa, are we able to pull that graphic up, or is it avoiding? There it is. We have control over our atmosphere, that biological family, that spiritual family, our attitudes, our decisions, what we choose to listen to, what we choose to watch, what we choose to say, that all affects our atmosphere. If we watch videos of people complaining all the time, guess what? It begins to shape us. If we live in negativity, guess what? It begins to shape us. As we transition from this week into next week, I want you to really pray in, and I want you to think about, who do I influence? There are folks out there that need me. We carry a weight. We carry an authority. There are broken relationships. There are challenges that they're facing. Am I feeding into that negativity? Or am I creating a light? Am I creating a safe place? Am I willing today? Am I willing today to look at the people in my life that may have hurt me? There may be brokenness, there may be challenges. Am I willing today to look at them and say, today is day one? I want to ask you to stand as we begin to worship, and I'm going to ask you to process that, and I don't want you to say it if you're not willing. If you're not willing to look at the people in your life and say today is day one, and understand, we may have reasons why we can't today, and that's not a word of judgment or shame, but if you can, if the Holy Spirit is stirring something inside of you, if He's giving you a picture of someone or something, and you say, today needs to be day one in my heart. I can't control them. I can't control their response. I can't control their attitude. I can't control their actions, but I have authority over mine. And today needs to be day one. Then on the count of three, I want you to declare with me, today is day one. Okay? 1, 2, 3. Today is day one. We're going to sing about blessing. And we're going to sing about the generations. And if this is burning and deep as in your heart as it is in mine, grab a hold and declare that today is day one.